Hello, welcome inside Gamebridge Fieldhouse. Brian Haenchen, Chloe Peterson here with you. We've upgraded, Chloe, our background situation. We did this just for
Yes,
you, Dustin.
just
If
for
you
you,
are
Dustin.
watching this, we don't look like we're being held hostage in the basement of some creep's basement, so that's always a plus. A lot to get to tonight, and not a lot of time to do it. Chloe, where do you want to start? Do you want to start with the Indiana Fever's 80-70 win over the Las Vegas Aces, or do you want to talk about Caitlin Clark? You know what? Let's save Caitlin Clark for the end.
Okay.
Because time spent listening, that's really important. I know this is all new to you. You're very reluctant to do these, but let's talk about the win. Indiana Fever 80-70. We were talking before the game, and it felt like a game going in that I wasn't expecting them to win, honestly. With what happened in New York, with what happened the last time they played Las Vegas, and what Becky Hammond said afterward, just being really upset with how our team played. It felt like one of those games where the Fever maybe get punched in the mouth early and fall apart. And it was kind of trending that way in the first half, but they find a way. They dig deep. Kelsey Mitchell finishes with a game-high 21 points. She had a brilliant fourth quarter. Natasha Howard was excellent. 4 of the 5 starters finished in double digits. Now I'll finally let you talk and hear what you think.
Yeah, I mean, I think it was a good game for the Fever, and that's, I think, kind of the story of the Fever this season, that they haven't been consistent, or they haven't consistently gotten these big wins. Like, they have this big win over Las Vegas tonight, which brings them to 2-1 against Las Vegas this season, the first time ever that they have won back-to-back against Las Vegas. And they now hold a very crucial tiebreaker in the event of a tie at the end of the season. Right now, Indiana's 13-12 and Las Vegas is 12-12, so a tie could very well happen at the end of the season. But I think this was a good win for them, but what they really need to work on is that consistency piece, because they haven't been able to consistently win, or even kind of just play well, I would say, for a lack of better words. Like, against New York, they were playing really well for those 3 quarters, and then they kind of just went from a 7-point lead, I believe it was, in the third quarter, to a 14-point loss, where they just kind of completely fell apart in the second half. So I think that next step for Indiana is to become that consistent team, and that's something they've been talking about basically all season. And it's been difficult because you have these injuries to Caitlin Clark, obviously their star. You have the injuries to Sophie Cunningham at the beginning of the season. You have Demira Stantis leaving for a few games for AmeriCup. You have, the Dewana Bonner situation at the beginning of the season, and that's kind of disrupted them this entire season so far. But if they can get into a consistent rhythm here, they can become a dangerous team.
We'll talk about the lineup stuff and the shuffling and maybe the benefits of the Caitlin Clark news later, but Kelsey Mitchell was really bad, I'd say, through the first 2+ quarters, even into the third there a little bit. She had the 3-pointer that put them ahead for good. And then in the fourth quarter, I mean, she just took off. She was 4 for 19 going in, finished at 8 for 24 with a game-high 21 points, which kind of came out of nowhere. And in doing so, she became the 4th fastest guard in WNBA history to reach the 4,400-point plateau. So a milestone night for her, but it's just kind of a veteran player, staying in the process, staying with it. And Steph White talked afterwards just about kind of just telling her, keep shooting the ball. It's going to find a way to get down, and it certainly did.
Yeah, I think that's what you have to say to any of your stars. Obviously, Kelsey, Caitlin, when she's healthy, and AB too. All of them are going to find their shot eventually. You just have to tell them to keep shooting, and it obviously worked for Kelsey today.
And the player that you wrote about tonight, Natasha Howard, great night for her as well. 18 points, 13 rebounds, 6 of 9 shooting. Just phenomenal outing from her again.
Yeah, it was a very efficient night for Howard, and I think she's been having really good starts this season. Like, I feel like consistently, we're halfway through the first quarter, and I see, Howard already has 8 points.
Yeah.
And I think she's really hitting her stride here too this season, after kind of finding a rhythm within the offense and defensively.
And then something that we talked about a little bit during the game, point of conversation afterwards, was stopping the bleeding, where it feels like these things for the Fever, for whatever reason, they just have a really way of snowballing in them so quickly. But tonight, it was trending that way. But again, they kind of put their foot down, and Stephanie White, in response to your question, I think, kind of just openly addressed it in pretty blunt terms.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing that Steph has seen this season is that lack of consistency I mentioned earlier. And obviously, I think Las Vegas went on a 16-2 run at one point during that game. And we thought, that was just going to be the end of the game. But, tonight they figured out how to stop that bleeding and how to bounce back and go on a run of their own to win by 10.
It's such a fascinating dynamic. A team that is so are so well versed in overcoming adversity. We talked about a lot with the Commissioner's Cup Championship and just all the injuries and the player absences that you referenced earlier. They found ways to find success despite all of that. And yet within the context and framework of the game, she referenced it with that New York game. It's like something goes wrong and it has a way of kind of impacting their play on the other end of the floor, and then it just snowballs like that. And it's a fascinating dynamic for a team that is so good at overcoming those punches in the mouth and getting itself up by the mat that within that little time frame, they can't do it consistently for whatever reason. But tonight, I think Sophie Cunningham said it, it felt like a good step in the right direction on that front.
I agree.
The big news from earlier today that Chloe reported, no timetable return for Caitlin Clark. Chloe, I know that you've been getting a lot of tweets about this, much to your dismay. I will let you have the floor and explain what that announcement today means.
Yes, so what that announcement means is Caitlin Clark obviously had that right groin injury that she suffered against the Connecticut Sun in Boston on July 15th. I guess we don't know exactly when she had that injury during the game, but she had visible discomfort with about 30 seconds left in the game. She was grabbing at that upper thigh groin area and obviously left the game with 30 seconds left. And then she was originally deemed questionable for the July 16th game, it was back-to-back and they were in New York. She was originally questionable as of the 1 p.m. injury report, but she got imaging on her groin that afternoon that ruled her out for that game. And then I think where a lot of people are having the confusion is after the All-Star weekend here in Indianapolis, she went and got additional evaluations, additional tests from doctors, and those tests, those evaluations show there was no additional damage or injury outside of what the imaging on July 16th showed. So it basically means she avoided serious injury, which is great for the Fever, and they have not set a timetable for her return yet. I think, that's because Caitlin hasn't really gone through injuries like this before. This is the first year she's had to miss games because of injury, and her 4-year college career and her rookie year, she went through without any significant injury. So they're kind of playing it by ear on, how long it'll take for her to fully recover and fully rehab from this right groin injury, and hoping that she won't re-aggravate it or suffer a different injury, kind of like she's done this season, where this is her 4th muscle injury of the season. She had a left groin injury that left her out 2 weeks, a left quad injury that kept her out for 2 weeks, and quad tightness in the preseason that kept her out of the preseason opener. So I think that no timetable for return is really just making sure that they take the time to confirm that she is going to be fully healthy when she returns.
Something that we talked about and makes sense too, just conceptually, it's good for the Beaver in the fact that there isn't a timetable, so to speak. Mm-hmm. So you're not playing day by day. Is she going to play? Is she not going to play? Because it gives the players a chance to groove. It gives the coach a chance of, what lineups work well together. They can build that chemistry. And to the point of that, Sophie Cunningham straight up said, I don't think it affects it anymore. And then she just talked about the statement, addressed that, and just it's helpful for them as they try to mentally prepare for games. If Caitlin's going to play, cool, but they're not at that point. They know that she's not going to play, and they've proven – they beat the Minnesota Lynx on the road in a hostile environment. So they know how to win. They know they can win and are capable of it. This is really a bad way of saying that it's helpful and beneficial for them to have some of that clarity in terms of knowing that she's not going to play because this team knows how to play together without her. And that's what Sophie Cunningham got to with her question, with her remarks tonight.
Yeah, I think obviously she meant it was good for them to have that consistency, and they know who is going to be on the floor on any given night. And they know, Caitlin's going to be out for a while, and they can really get into a rhythm and figure out how to play without her, like they did, obviously, in Minnesota, as you mentioned, and against Las Vegas in early July.
Thank you for saving that point. I was just filibustering terribly to try and get us to the 10-minute mark, but we came up short of the 10-minute mark.
That's all right.
Much to Chloe's excitement and happiness because she gets to go home. I get to go home too. We thank you all so much for watching. We'll be back reporting, maybe a video, maybe not. From Chicago on Sunday. Then we're back here on Wednesday for a game against Phoenix. So the return home of Dwana Bonner. So
home is a strong word.
Home is a word. We thank you all so much for watching. We'll be talking again soon.